The Bills extending Christian Benford could be the key to them making a big postseason run, or at least winning the AFC East, because of a departure of a big wide receiver from the Dolphins. We're talking about all that and more today on the 32 Blueprint. A lot happened over the weekend. We have a lot of content to get to. We're going to be talking three major ones here on the 32 Blueprint. I'm Nick Marovitz, apparently running the host role as Christian Rao dives deep into the NFL draft content. If you are a big fan of the NFL and you want daily content, especially with the draft, be sure to hit subscribe. This is the best place for your daily NFL content, either on YouTube or with the podcast. We're going to dive right into the Bills, which I know Christian is super pumped to talk about. Christian Benford with a major extension, 4 years, $76 million. What does this mean for the Bills and, their secondary situation, Christian?
Well, I mean, they needed it. This is absolutely a must-have for the Bills because cornerback has been a huge question ever since Trey White got that extension, and then obviously the injuries happened, and he wound up going elsewhere. But Christian Benford, a 6th-round pick out of Villanova, you thought that he was going to be just a depth piece, but Sean McDermott finds a way to do this with cornerbacks. It's absolutely impressive, and 2022 is going to turn out to be like one of the best drafts, I think, in like recent history for a lot of teams, especially the Bills. And what's crazy about it is that their 1st-round pick was a complete bust, at least in the eyes of the Bills. He was just traded. Keir Elam was just traded to the Dallas Cowboys, a cornerback in the same draft. He didn't work out. He didn't fit in this system, but the 6th-round pick out of Villanova absolutely did. I love this because the money is outstanding. 4 years, $76 million. If you look at the stats, if you're only a stat guy, if you're not a guy that's really into, I don't know, knowing ball, then you would probably think that this is just a normal kind of contract, right? But this is an absolute steal. This puts him at the 13th overall for money-wise out of all cornerbacks in the NFL, cornerback 1, if you will. And by the time like Sauce Gardner and a couple other players are signed, he's going to be in the second tier, the second half of the league in cornerback 1s and money. This guy plays a lot better than the second half. At the very minimum, he's a top 10 corner in the league, in my opinion. He received an all-pro vote just last year for his contributions and his performance. I think this is an absolute steal by the Buffalo Bills.
I think that's a great way to look at it. If you know ball, that's really the most important thing. Do you know ball?
You gotta know ball. You gotta know ball if you think Benford rocks, and I think he's great, and I think this is going to turn out to be one of the best signings in the Brandon Beane era. And Beane knows how to cook, man. Wow. He really does. He does a really good job. And what we've seen from him, he's not afraid to spend Pagula's money this past offseason. What he's done with Shakir and what he's done with Bernard and now Benford, obviously making Josh Allen the highest paid player in NFL history as well. He's done a lot of things. And then, of course, Greg Rousseau as well. All those players have extended. They've built onto their core. We'll see what happens with the salary cap bingo and what goes on with all that, how much cap room and space they have left. Can they actually sign their draft picks? No, that's going to be a whole different problem, right? But we'll see that in the future. But overall, I do like this. And I think that Buffalo's in a really good spot. And now that they've got their cornerback 1, now they can focus on cornerback 2, wide receiver, in the draft. Those are still the clear needs. They got to have somebody else on the other side of Benford. Rasul Douglas didn't have the best year last year. He's still a free agent. They need another wide receiver, although I like the Shakir pickup. Amari Cooper is still a free agent. Now, Brandon Beane hasn't ruled those out, but I'd like to see even better upgrades for that if I'm just saying. If it's just me, right? But what do I know? Again, I'm the one who knows ball. I know that Benford rocks.
We know ball here at 32 Blueprint. That's for sure.
Oh, absolutely, we do.
I think if Mr. Brandon, were to cook chili, he would probably put beans in it, wouldn't you say? I think that would make sense.
Who doesn't put beans in chili?
There's way too many people. I don't even get me started. Beans.
If you are a non-bean chili lover, don't subscribe to this channel.
It's not even chili anymore.
It's not chili. It's not chili. What is it? What would that be? Would it be like soup. Meat sauce?
Yeah, true. Why are we not putting on spaghetti? That's a great point.
Yeah.
But you mentioned kind of being there in the wide receiver room, and obviously the whole James Cook situation. Beane doesn't think that the wide receiver room maybe needs a lot of help. He says, quote, needs? I wouldn't say needs, but we'll look for competition. I would say our offense did pretty good last year. there's been some quotes going around in the sports media world of if it ain't broke, break it and fix it and make it better kind of situation. That quote caught me off guard. I don't know if you've heard it before, but to me, this sounds like are we just okay with what's going on? We're not going to make any moves because I don't remember. Did the Bills win the Super Bowl last year?
Hey,
I
you
don't
all
know.
right? You maybe slow your roll a little bit on that one. I will say this: the wide receiver room, I don't think it's a glaring need. I don't think it's the number one need. I still think adding another person to the secondary is huge. I still want to see more interior D line, edge rushing. I'm not sold on the Joey Bosa move, although I'm excited about it. I would be more excited about it 6 years ago, but I'm
Yep.
excited right now.
Same thing
Uh,
with Von Miller. It feels like a little bit.
exactly right. It does kind of feel that with probably a lot cheaper in the money wise. Wide receiver wise, though, there were a lot of targets and a lot of big passing plays that went to Mac Hollins last year. Mac Hollins
Mhm.
isn't on the Bills anymore. He's with you on the Patriots. I think there is a need for a wide receiver, but you don't need them in the first 100 picks of the draft. You can get a late round draft pick. Look, Josh Allen can throw a football to anyone. He's the best salesman when it comes to being one of the best quarterbacks in the league. I'm sure he could sell a cherry popsicle to a player in white gloves. I mean, I'm sure they could find a way to do that, right? I'm sure he could.
There you go.
But
Cook.
all I'm saying is that I would like to see some competition. Shakir's great. You got to get some size. Get some size on the outside. Amari Cooper should have been a perfect fit for Buffalo. It didn't really pan out. Maybe it's because of the trade. Maybe it just didn't work out mid-season. Maybe he's a valuable option. Maybe Josh wants to bring him back for the offseason. But I will say this. If there is a veteran free agent piece that comes in, I have a good feeling that Josh Allen will be involved in that decision. If not,
Mhm.
maybe they just go ahead and get a late round draft pick and figure that out. And can you blame them for doing that? Would you go out for weapons for Josh Allen if he can make a guy like Matt Collins look the way he did last season? I
Well,
mean,
that's the
let's just
question.
be honest here.
That's the question. I agree.
No, I would.
No,
Oh
I
yeah,
completely agree.
I
That
wouldn't.
is literally the question. That's what I was going to ask you is can the Bills get away with literally just paying Josh Allen and then throwing in random Lego pieces at the rest of the offense? Like, is it just Josh Allen or do you need a full competent offense or is he just like you can play both sides here?
You're throwing around the Lego word. I have a little one, man. Stepping on that's like PTSD right
Oof.
now.
Yeah,
But
my bad.
no, oh God. I mean, I just saw lights. It was rough. I will say this. Obviously, I would love to have a crazy like Tatora McMillan or something like that come in the
Yeah.
draft, or
Yep.
find a way to get Travis Hunter, or something just like an insane piece. Golden from Texas, Burden from Missouri, but those pieces are probably not going to be there at the end of the first round. Maybe Burden, maybe he falls there. I mean, there's a couple good Iowa State wide receivers that I like. I'm sure you like them too. I think those would fit really well. I think that is probably the quote unquote ceiling of how high I'd want to reach Buffalo for going to a wide receiver is where Noel or Noel and Higgins are sitting for Iowa State. Is it Noel or no?
Noel, Jalen Noel.
No,
Yep.
okay. I've
Dog.
asked you that before, and I knew that I was saying it wrong. So, no, I think that's the ceiling that I would like Buffalo to go at, because I think if they're going to pick in the first round, it's got to be secondary.
Oh, interesting. Very
Got to be.
interesting. Let me know down below what you would take if you were the Bills in this situation. I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't know if I want to see Noel go to Buffalo because I don't think I can root against him. I don't think I can. It's too deep in my
Well, I'll send you a
veins.
Bills hat then, and you can just wear that on the show.
So that would have to be the result of a lost bet. That is
Or a Noel Bills jersey. Would you take that?
if that were the
Ooh.
situation, I would certainly consider it. Speaking of considering it, we need to consider the Ravens as potential Super Bowl champions this year. They
Yeah.
may have made the move to put them over the top, ladies and gentlemen. The Ravens extend John Harbaugh to a 3-year deal through the 2028 season at this point. Feels like the AFC North is, in some respects, kind of it's like a coach's dream. Like you're just secured. You're there forever. It's been there since '08, so 20 years that John Harbaugh is currently extended through. Does this move the needle for the Ravens? Obviously, he's been the guy for almost 20 years now. It'll be 20 with the extension. To me, this is, I mean, it's kind of a situation of the grass isn't always greener, right? Like this, let's just stick with what we've got. Let's make the pieces work. Kind of hope the ball bounces our way. Things will fall into place type of situation, as opposed to, all right, John, we've seen enough. Boot you, then you're in a bear situation with the coaches, or you don't want to find yourself in a 5 years and 5 coaches type of situation. I think this was the right play.
Yeah, I think it's the right play, but you probably said the most polarizing thing as a host so far, saying that the Ravens are making the next step to the Super Bowl by keeping Harbaugh, because I think there are two sides of the Ravens fans for sure that are like, love Harbaugh and get Harbaugh the hell out of Baltimore. I feel like there is a very strong case for both. Now, I will say this.
Same
You
thing
talk
with
about
Mike Tomlin, probably.
right. And I was about to say that. You talk about the AFC North. You get Mike Tomlin, you have John Harbaugh. Those guys are like mainstays in this division. And I think that's because of how Harbaugh, and I would probably assume that Tomlin's the same way, how they've changed the way that they've coached. Now, Tomlin might have been this the entire time, but we can't say the same thing about John Harbaugh. Harbaugh, when he was starting off with Baltimore, if you remember, he was getting guys like Ray Lewis. He was getting guys like Shane. I almost said Shane Falco. What is this? The replacements? Joe Flacco.
Thank Billis.
He almost got fired back then because he's making those veterans upset. He was not becoming that type of coach. His entire chemistry of coaching changed and became a player's coach. And I think that's why he's still around. Now, there was some rumors, I believe in 2018, if I remember, where he was going to get fired or maybe even shipped off to, I think, Miami. I think I heard this as a rumor once, where Harbaugh was going to be traded to the Dolphins. But I think he's got the player's side right now. And if a certain player, and that certain player's name is Lamar Jackson, wants you to be his coach, then I don't think Harbaugh is going away anytime soon. And there is no way that Baltimore's front office was going to let Harbaugh be a lame duck coach for this season,
Right.
having Lamar Jackson, what he did this past season, arguably being the MVP. You could make that decision. He won the All-Pro. He missed the MVP from Josh Allen. I think either could have won that award. I'll go there. But you can't have him on an expiring contract, because what if they do good and then all of a sudden somebody goes poaches him? Or if they don't do good, then you have all these question marks. Well, you can let him go. Take that thought process out of the head and let them focus on the ultimate goal. So I do love the extension, but I know Baltimore fans are probably up in airs, probably ready to get back on the bus, pack everything up, and ship that team back up to Indianapolis.
Yeah, it's well, I don't know is it longitude or latitude? Look
the
at
other
us.
way.
We are not a geography.
Yeah,
this isn't a geography show. Yeah, literally. I use Apple Maps just to go to the store. So I mean, it is what it is. But when you look at the the kind of the coaching history of Harbaugh, I wonder, is there an argument that he's not quite as strong as he was? Just a quick walkthrough of his 17 years. First four makes it either to the championship or divisional game in the AFC. Then they win the title in 2012, finish first in the AFC North. Then they go back and forth. They miss the playoffs and they lose in the divisional game. Missed the playoffs 3 years in a row. They do finish second in the AFC North for those last two. And then in 2018 is where things are kind of starting to heat up again. They make the playoffs 6 of the last 7 years, but they're eliminated in the wild card game 2 of those years with only one championship appearance, AFC championship appearance. I mean, to me, it's one of those, when I'm looking at that, you can look at it in a bunch of different ways and you can keep all of these things in mind. But Lamar is just such a generational talent and player that it's like, I think you could put Lamar, let's say, on the Panthers, and they'd be in a run, especially in the NFC South, they'd be in a run for the playoffs and potentially a divisional game. So is Harbaugh still at that same caliber of coaching? Are the Ravens fans justified in wanting him booted out of town?
No, I think you could make a fair point of saying that Harbaugh might not be the guy that can get Lamar and the Ravens a Super Bowl again. 13-11 is his playoff record. And you mentioned it, the first half of his playoff career, first half of his coaching career, he won the Super Bowl. He made it to the AFC Championship game. A lot of those wins came in the first 5-6 years of his coaching tenure. He's in year, I believe, 17 now, as you mentioned,
That sounds
with the Ravens. Yeah. I mean, so a lot of those losses have come on the
On
right
the back
side
end.
as of late. So I think that there is definitely an argument for it. But who are you going to have him replace? Are you going to have Todd
Oh,
Monken
yeah.
do it? I mean, Todd Monken would be, he's a
Yeah.
great coach. Don't get me wrong. And I'm sure there's a lot of Baltimore Ravens fans and sports fans just alike that don't want to see him leave Lamar Jackson. But he's
Mhm.
had a lot of interviews for other coaching spots over the last couple of years, and he's still with Baltimore. That tells you
Mm.
something. That
It
tells you
does.
something in my mind. So maybe he's not head coach material, or maybe there's something missing there. And in my mind, right now, as we sit, I don't know who you would replace John Harbaugh to ensure, because the window for Baltimore is wide open. They were very
Yeah.
close to beating Buffalo last year. They were in the AFC Championship just 2 years ago. The window is wide open for Baltimore. They're just missing it by just slightly. And the AFC is so hard anyways.
It's very tough.
So I don't think there's anyone that can replace him, at least right now. There's at least no one on the open market where you're like, that's the guy that can surely replace Harbaugh and get us to the next level. If you think there's somebody, maybe I'm missing someone. If you think it, let me know in the comments, because I don't know.
Yeah, well, yeah, I was gonna say down in the comments below is a great spot, or maybe it's just Jim Harbaugh. Maybe it is one of the brothers. Maybe we
You know,
swap them.
I saw this now that you brought that up. I think it was Ian Rappaport that dropped this knowledge, this little rap bomb, if you will. And he said that that was a terrible one. He said that he's getting paid more than Jim Harbaugh with this new extension. And last
Oh,
time I checked, Jim Harbaugh was making over 20 or $18 million a year. Andy Reid's the highest paid coach in the NFL. He makes $20 million a year. I think Jim is around 18-ish. So that means
I
that his new
it's
extension's got to be over 18. And I think that puts him as the third highest, because there's Sean Payton in there somewhere as well. So I think John Harbaugh is now the third highest paid coach in the NFL.
which is awesome. I mean, that's just cool, Give the man his money. He's 17 years at a job. I'm not barely even 17 years old. I am, but
God damn.
bro, in '08, I was 7 for
We're going to put the
context.
NR17 rating up in our top corner now because of that comment. When we have to check mark, is this made for kids? No, but it was made by a kid
Made
on
by
the
a
YouTube
child.
comment. Oh my goodness gracious.
Yeah. But that's
Boy.
just so long. It's like it is crazy to think about the NFC
Yeah.
North or
08,
AFC North, excuse
I was
me.
still in high school in 08, so I mean I wasn't even in the military yet, didn't even do college. I mean, yeah, it's a long time ago.
It's
But
wild.
yeah, it's definitely a long time ago. And but it doesn't feel like that. It doesn't feel like he's been the coach for
No.
17 years. If you would have asked me that question without us looking it up and researching, I would have said 10, maybe. It's just because it just went so fast. But he's won a Super Bowl. He's done some great things. Now, those defenses were ecstatic. They were amazing back
Yeah.
then. Now he's got Lamar. It's a completely different side of the puzzle. And I will say, in 2012, the AFC wasn't the same as it was in 2025. It was the Ravens
Yes.
and it was like the Patriots, right? Like that
Patriots,
was really
really.
the only two teams. There was no Kansas City Chiefs dynasty then. There was no what the Bills are doing right now, what the Bengals that do in their division as of late, what the Steelers have done. I mean, they have a gauntlet just to get to the playoffs in the
Yeah.
AFC North. So the fact that they've at least made it to the AFC Championship in the last couple of years, they've been just a few games away every single year with Lamar at your quarterback. I don't think Harbaugh's the problem.
I was
I
just
think
gonna
that there's
ask,
just a
essentially.
yeah, I
Yeah.
don't think that's the case. Find a way to bolster your defense a little more. Find a way to, and I hate to say this, but you got to find a way to beat Mahomes and beat Allen, because
That's
those are the
really
only
it.
two teams
Maybe
that
Burrow,
are stopping
depending
you
on the
right now.
matchup.
That's true, but we don't know about Burrow's defense as of right now. I think
Yes.
Burrow's a step back because what we saw this past year. Does the Bengals make the playoffs? Maybe. Are there going to be 3 teams in the AFC North to make the playoffs this year? Quite possible, but it all depends on what the Bengals defense is all about. Because right now, I'm pretty sure they have a couple applicants on LinkedIn looking for a defensive end, a linebacker, looking for low pay, entry level pay.
I'll do it. If they want
I
me
mean,
out there, I will do it for sure. I got one more question up for you on that front.
okay.
It's something that popped in my brain. You talk about these long tenured coaches, right? Like Mike
Yep.
Tomlin is the first one that everybody thinks about, winning season for the last 9,000 years. And
Yeah.
and whatnot. But then like Bill Belichick, gosh, you just said his name earlier. The Broncos, Sean Payton,
Sean Payton.
like,
Yeah.
guys like that, right? Like they have these long, illustrious careers. Obviously, bro, it's just getting too late. I can't think of his name from who's the Kansas City. I
Andy
should know this.
Reid.
Andy Reid.
Nuggies,
Andy
baby.
Reid.
Nuggies.
Andy
All about the Fumblerooskies.
Underooski.
Yep.
Andy Reid, like those, he split kind of between Eagles and the Chiefs, but
Yep.
is John Harbaugh on that level or not? That is the basis of this question. When you think of those coaches that have played or coached, excuse me, for so long, is he in that level?
I would say yes, but if you ask the majority of people, if you put this out in the universe and every single NFL fan in the world could answer it, I
I
would
think they'd say
assume
no.
the majority, and I think it'd be close. Let's go like a 54-46% would be no. And only
I think
because
it'd
you
be
would
no.
think it would be recency bias. I think it'd all be about recency bias. You'd forget about 2012. You'd forget about the AFC Championship games. You'd only think about the present right now and the fact that Lamar has not given you a Super Bowl with Harbaugh at the helm. So I would say yes, personally, as a fan of the game and a ball knower, Christian Rao.
Certified ball knower.
Certified. Yep, I got it. I got it on paper somewhere, signed by my daughter in Crayola. It's purple,
Oh,
so it's official.
it's
But what I
official.
will say, yeah, it's purple. It's purple. It's got to be purple. But what I will say is I would assume that the majority of fans would say no. 54-46. It'd be close, though.
I'd be curious. We should put out a poll. I don't know if we'll be able to get every single NFL fan, although if you're listening, be sure to share it with your NFL friends because that's what we're trying to get the polls to that many people so we can find out what do the people really think. And I'll tell you this much today, we found out what someone really thinks, and this was a big deal. This was a very big piece of information, and it's so funny how this works now in 2025 with the internet being what it is. That's where things go down. That is where things actually happen. And though sometimes it seems a little bit mysterious and stupid, it actually sometimes is a very real thing. We're talking AFC East. No, we're not talking Bills again. No, we're not talking Patriots as though I wish we were. And no, we're not talking about the Jets, although they probably deserve some airtime. We're talking about the Dolphins. Well, a little bit of a Twitter conversation here. At Dolphin Man Jared puts out biggest draft night player trade candidate. And then at Jason_OTC says probably Tyreek Hill. Oh, that's an interesting thought. Shout out to Mr. OTC there, Mr. Jason, looking spiffy in the profile picture. And then a guy we know quite well, Tyreek Hill, Mr.
The
Cheetah,
cheetah.
puts up the deuces sign in a quote
Oh,
tweet.
boy.
So what do you make of this? Because obviously his post-game presser after the last game of the season was pretty loud. Definitely made some noise there. But is this just internet banter, or is this actually Tyreek is just fed up? Something's gone down. I don't know if he's had another kid up in I don't even know where he'd be traded to, but another city. Is he out of there? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I could totally see him getting traded. And this isn't some burner account, actually. This is Jason Fitzgerald of Over the Cap that gave this
OTC.
yeah, Over the Cap. It's a website that's just like kind of like Spot Track that talks about the salary cap. So teams, it's a really cool website. You should check it out if you haven't. If you're a football fan, just especially right now, free agency and draft and all that stuff. Tyreek Hill, obviously, as you mentioned, didn't have a amazing press conference. And if you've been the Miami Dolphins over the last couple of years since getting Tyreek Hill from the Chiefs, I don't know if you've had warm and fuzzies, right? You've had Jalen Waddle, who's supposed to step up and do some big things, and Tyreek Hill. Now, he's been a great wide receiver, don't get me wrong. But there's also another side, kind of like going back to this Harbaugh conversation. There's a half of Dolphins fans. I don't know if it's half. I don't know if it's 50-50. I don't have a poll of all NFL fans right now, Nick. I don't have that. But what I'm saying is that we do need it. We need to have that at our discretion at all times. But for some reason, it's not in the it's not in the funds at the moment. Tyreek Hill had a great season. I mean, he was up at the top of receiving yards. I don't know if he led it a couple years ago. I can't remember, but I know he's up there. And then there's another half where people I see on social media all the time. I used to write for the Miami Marlins, so I have a lot of Dolphins fans on my Twitter feed. And they would talk about how overpaid Tyreek Hill is. right?
Mm.
And it baffles me. It baffles me to think that you're asking for arguably one of the best receivers in the league over the last decade for speed. Now, Xavier Worthy, now the Chief that's kind of
Whew.
replaced Tyreek Hill, might have taken that from him. But when you look at this wide receiver group in the draft this year, and if you're the Miami Dolphins, who are, dare I say, in a desperate need for a reset, and you
Yeah.
have an offensive mastermind head coach, I mean, speed always doesn't work. Ask the Raiders with Darius Hayward Bay a couple
Mm.
years ago. I mean, more than a couple years ago. That might have been before you were born, sir. Ask about Darius Hayward Bay. Ask about that speed, right? It's just not, it doesn't work out. So
Well, yeah, speed and the
I
Raiders don't
wouldn't,
really go together either. So
that's true. I kind of would like to see the trade happen. If I had to take a guess on who he'd get traded to, that screams Dallas Cowboys to me, though.
really,
That
oof.
screams a
That
Dallas
means Jerry
Cowboys
Jones
trade.
has to make a move, though.
Yeah, well, he hasn't yet. He likes to make moves at the draft. He likes to sit in his little
Ah.
situation room and get on the TV and being on that phone looking like he's all big and powerful. I could totally see on draft day, maybe not the first night, because I don't think a first round pick would be involved if it's the Cowboys, because that's a top 15 pick. I think they're picking 12, if I remember correctly, right now.
Mm.
I think you could trade maybe a second or third in the package to get Tyreek Hill. That could be a Friday night trade. We might see Tyreek Hill on the move.
I don't. Going to the Cowboys is wild. You were right. Actually, they are picking 12. Kudos to you. Just double check that for
Certified.
you at this time. Certified ball knower, Mr. Rao. I got a question for you. You mentioned Xavier Worthy in there.
Yeah.
Seems a little bit like that speed kills kind of wide receiver. Back in when Tyree got into the league, it wasn't as utilized, and then the Chiefs found a way, and then it's a copycat league, and everyone figures out how to get these speed demons the ball in open space, especially with the transition towards these offensive-minded head coaches, these offensive gurus like Mike McDaniels. Is Tyreek on the back end of his career kind of the reason Xavier Worthy can have success, and that's why we're still like thinking that Tyreek Hill is like a really valid wide receiver option, or is he truly kind of on the back end of his career where it's like he's just kind of living off of that true speed of 2020, 2019, whatever it was? You understand the question I'm getting at here? Is it just kind
Yeah.
of a mindset we've got?
I think both can be true, actually. I think Tyreek Hill can still be great at what he does. I don't think his speed has slowed down too much. Now, obviously, with age, that goes a little bit. But I also think that he can be a very good wide receiver one still on a team. If he was traded to the Dallas Cowboys, him and CeeDee Lamb would be a very dangerous duo. And you mentioned this whole thing with speed kills and all these things like that. I blame that on next gen stats. I blame that on AWS, all these analytics that have came out, finding the fact that how important separation is. And they found ways to, get the defenses off guard and find spaces and stuff. Analytics has really helped that game. So, but I will say this, there's a lot of fast players in this NFL draft. Now, it might not be Xavier Restrepo, a Miami Hurricane,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
We saw his 40-yard. Now, we did see that
Oh,
he was hurt
no.
for that. This is probably the farthest I'll go on that joke. But no, you know what? Whatever. Hurricane, Miami Dolphin, might as well put them together. Restrepo, what do you run, a 4.8? But there's another Texas runner or wide receiver, and Isaiah Bond, who's very fast. If Miami can find a way to dish out Tyreek Hill, who has rumored in the past saying he's only going to play a few more years before he retires. And if
Yeah.
I remember, I think he said he wanted to be a porn star. So
I think he did, actually. You might be
yeah.
right about that.
So I don't know how that'll go, but
If
hey,
if anyone can do it, Tyree can do it. He would really
how do
draw
you
some
know?
eyes in.
Oh, okay.
I mean, are you kidding me? I know.
I thought you knew something that I didn't know.
This is general knowledge here. I'm a certified ball knower, apparently. That was what put me over the edge.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna let you have that one.
That's crazy. My bad. All right. So I do, you mentioned he's gonna be a wide receiver one no matter where he goes.
He wouldn't be at Dallas. No, I think CeeDee Lamb would still be the CeeDee. I think he
Think
still
it'd be
has the
CD?
capability to be wide receiver one.
Like, what about the Patriots? That's the one that gets thrown. Obviously, be interdivisional.
He would be the starter over Diggs if that's what you're asking.
Yeah, that's so. He's. Where would you tier him? Probably A tier. Not S tier, but A tier, kind of that
Yeah. Yeah,
middle.
now, just because his speed has probably gone a little lower. He's older. I mean, reaction time's a little bit slower. Obviously, still faster than me. There's no doubt about
Yeah.
that. Separation's still going to be something that you can make happen. But I would say high A plus.
Mm, interesting. Yeah, I think if Tyreek and I went one-on-one, I'd probably win 1 out of 1,000. And that 1 is the one he took a water break on. I mean, he's obviously generational and still, that's the thing, but I
I
wonder
would need a
how much.
39-yard head start to beat him in the 40-yard dash.
Yeah, that's true. What do you think how far ahead would you have to be? I would say 20 yards.
I would say at least 20 yards, man. At least. At least. Yeah. At least.
He's so fast though. Him and Noah Lyles, right? The track star.
Lyles, yeah. Did they
Yeah.
do it? Did it
I
happen?
think it's coming up maybe this summer.
Ooh,
Is what
okay.
Who do you got? Who you got? Lyles is talking. Lyles is talking.
I mean, I gotta go with the brand. Gotta take Cheetah, man. Gotta stick with the league.
There's no I can't you could never take Lyles, I don't think, if you're a true ball knower. Now, I
Yeah,
don't
I'm
know.
okay with being wrong. But I'll never pick Lyles. No way.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly right. Are you a trader or are you gonna back the NFL? Do you back
Cam
the team?
Hayward could be racing against Lyles. I'm taking Cam Hayward.
What about
Like,
Xavier Restrepo?
I mean, hamstring and all. Like, I've seen some things on Facebook Reels these days. I don't know how I got down this niche, and I don't even know why it got on my Reels. But algorithms are crazy like that. But I see these new things with like physical therapists where they say make a fake hamstring with me, and they like tape around their hamstrings, and they do all this taping, like athletic tape, to make like the leg feel like it's got a like an
Oh,
actual
yeah.
hamstring. You have seen that?
Mhm.
Restrepo could use that against Lyles, and I think he'd
Good.
be fine. I think he'd
He'd
be
be
fine.
fine.
Yeah.
I've done some of those tape jobs. I took an athletic training course, at, the University of Iowa State,
Okay.
and, it's very odd. It really is. They do it on you first just to show you what it should feel like, because obviously classmate to classmate, the tape job, probably not A plus, probably not up to the standard, but they'll do it on you. And then you walk around and it's like, I have a fully functioning Achilles. So this is like, I've got super boost on my Achilles, but I could very well see how this would like actually aid in someone who has an Achilles injury and reduce. It is wild. The
It's like pumping up your
capabilities of
Reeboks,
tape.
but for your hamstring.
Yeah,
That's how I'd see it. That's how I would
it
see it.
it's actually kind of like that, It really is pumping up the Reeboks.
You could probably jump a lot higher, I would assume.
What about with moon boots? Think you could dunk with moon boots? Probably
Moon
could.
boots are underrated, bro. They're
They
super
are.
underrated.
Last question. Moon boots or Heelys?
Bro. What are we doing with them? We just like hanging out?
Just general, yeah.
If
Think
we're
of
just
like a
gelling,
week-long experiment.
I'm taking a Healy, bro. Like we're just
If we're chill, I don't care what the situation is. Give me the moon boots
okay. All right.
every time.
I don't think any answer was wrong here. I think that was a great way to end this show. Is man, moon boots though.
I
Yeah.
want a pair of moon boots, but I've always wanted Heelys. My sister got a pair of
I
Heelys
had a
before I did, and I
pair of
felt
Heelys
cheated.
growing up. I did, and I will say that it was I thought I was a lot cooler than I actually was. Let's just say that.
And that's really what they're for, isn't
But
it?
I feel like if you had them now, the retro vibe feel, it would be a lot more like dudes would look at that and say, "Hell yeah."
Yeah, they would.
Yeah.
Just the way they look at this show and they say, hell yeah. And then they hit the
So fun.
subscribe button and they turn on the bell and they stick around for all of the daily NFL content and really in depth. This is like premium level NFL draft coverage. If you are seeing this, you need to check it out and also tell someone about it because this is all for free. The best NFL draft coverage I've ever seen in my entire life. So, shout out to you guys for listening until this point in the episode. Christian, do you have any final words for us?
No, I mean, all I can think about now is Heelys, and I'm probably going to find some crazy YouTube videos of watching like some Heelys things while I'm doing some work tonight. We might get one less draft video now because good old
That's my
certified ball
bad.
knower Christian Rao will be pretending he's Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2 with some Heelys. But other than that, nah, man, it's been a great episode. Glad to be back. It was a long weekend. It's a long weekend, but excited to get ball. By the way, I know the last couple of weeks we've been doing just Monday through Thursday. We're back to Monday through Friday for especially the rest of the month. April's going to be huge, guys.
Enormous month. It is. And we'll see you again tomorrow, baby. I can't wait.